excused.
James McCann
Here.
and Roger Walsh.
Here,
And I forgot about Frank Carr. Frank is
Frank,
also
he
excused.
is also excused.
Okay.
They're
thank you.
both at a county board meeting, they're both county board supervisors.
Thank you.
All right, first item on the agenda is the public hearing on ordinance 2018-1 relative to establishing regulations at the launching facilities to Big Cedar Lake at Gonring Drive, Acre Drive, and Cedar Park Drive relating to closing these launching facilities when the two parking areas owned or leased and operated by the Big Cedar Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District are full with 34 vehicles and/or vehicle trailer units. Let me just do before we start the public hearing, let me just do a little background. In the ordinances that some of you have, and if you could share that ordinance with your neighbor or so, if they may not have seen the ordinance. One of the concerns that was brought to our attention was the State Department of Natural Resources has enacted an administrative code, that's section NR 1.91, which lists the maximum access units, which would be trailers and vehicles for the various lakes. And they are set up in terms of acres. So they have less than 50 to 5,000 or more acres. Our lake is in the category 500 to 999 acres. And the maximum public boating access, which I said are vehicle and trailer, is one or more access sites which in total provide one car trailer unit per 25 open water access. We have about 932 acres. You divide that, it's 37 car or vehicle trailer units. We have parking for 37 vehicle trailer units. 34 at the two parking lots on Gonring Drive, and 3 over at Cedar Park Drive. There are a lot more than 37 boats here on weekends. I don't think anyone is going to deny that. So there was a request that we consider putting in an ordinance that would restrict or prohibit launching once we reach the maximum parking. There are other lakes in Wisconsin that have similar regulations. The ordinance that was drafted for this lake was patterned after the ordinance in the village of Shaniqua. And it basically says, at the time of launching, it says, on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, from Memorial Day through Labor Day of each year, no person shall launch a boat from the Gonring Drive, Hacker Drive, or Cedar Park Drive boat launch facilities unless, at the time of launching, there is an available parking space in the BCLPRD's 2 parking areas owned or leased and operated by the Big Cedar Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District off of Gonring Drive, west of North Lake Drive, for the vehicle and trailer which transported the boat. The western parking area, the one closest to Highway 144, contains 24 spaces, and the eastern, which is on the south side of Gonring Drive, contains 10 spaces. That's basically, there's more additional language dealing with citation authority. Penalty is listed in section 2018-1.4, $75 for the first offense and $150 for the second and or subsequent offenses during the same calendar year. That's basically the ordinance. And now I'll open it up for public comment, which is what is authorized by our agenda. A couple things. One, you're all entitled to speak. We hope we can get everyone to speak tonight. And I'm going to be able to get all of you an opportunity to speak. We're going to try to set a total time limit of 1 hour. And that's not fixed. If we still have a few people that need to talk, we'll extend it. But I want to like to target an hour. Each person will be given 2 minutes, and I will time them. And then I'll ask you when your 2 minutes are up to move on so the next person can get it. And I would hope that you don't keep coming back. But I'll tell you the way, if I can remember who had spoken earlier, I will say you can come back, but everybody else has got to be finished.
That's marriage.
What?
That's marriage.
Oh, all right. I also would ask that you, when you get up to speak, speak loudly, because I think, is there anybody outside yet? Many?
Should do it in winter if it's warm in here.
When you get up to speak, give your name and address. Now, I know some of you have already given your name and address to Julie, our secretary. And she'll have, if you give the name and address, she'll then be able to put it down in the minutes. But I would ask that if you don't give your name and address, I will not allow you to talk. So with that, who's first? Go ahead.
Jim Sheriff, 5840 Hacker Drive. We live on the other side of the lake. We have a lake access, but I just take my pontoon boat and bring it down to the Hacker Drive and set it in and motor off. Does that get into this situation of the 34?
If the 34 are here and they fill this lot, chains will be put at the Godry Drive, Cedar Park Drive, and Hacker Drive launch.
Okay.
So if you're going to get your boat in or out, I suggest you do it early in the morning.
Okay.
Because it'll be a while before the parking lot fills. But this parking lot will fill on Saturdays and Sundays if it's fairly decent weather.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
She was on.
Go ahead.
You want me to do the time?
Yes. Did you,
I'd like to speak if I can. Thank you.
name and address?
Yes, definitely. Hello, my name is Megan Kennedy. I'm a West Bend resident at 3307 Mediterranean Avenue. I'm a West Bend property owner, a West Bend taxpayer, a West Bend voter, and a Big Cedar Lake launch permit holder. I'm here today to speak against Regulation 2018-1, which seeks to close a publicly owned boat launch when an arbitrary number of parking spaces is filled. Today I'm here to speak for all residents of Wisconsin because Wisconsin's waterways belong to all of us. Wisconsin's lakes and rivers are public resources, owned in common by all of Wisconsin citizens under the state's public trust doctrine. Based on the state's constitution, this doctrine has been further defined by case law and statute. It declares that all navigatable waters are common highways and forever free and held in trust by the DNR. Wisconsin citizens have already pursued legal and legislative action to clarify how this body of law is interpreted and implemented. And as a result, the public interest, once primarily interpreted to protect public right of transportation on navigable waters, has been broadened to include protected rights to public recreational activities and scenic beauty. All of Wisconsin citizens have the right to boat, fish, hunt, ice skate, and swim on the navigatable waters, as well as enjoy the natural scenic beauty regardless of an arbitrary number of parking spaces. Wisconsin law recognizes that owners of lands bordering the lakes and rivers, called riparian owners, hold rights to the water next to their property. Those rights include the use of shoreline next to their property. However, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court has ruled that when conflicts occur between the rights of riparian owners and public rights, the public rights are primary to the riparian owners' secondary rights. Article 9, Section 1 of the Wisconsin State Constitution, that is. Wisconsin's public trust doctrine requires the state to intervene to protect public rights in the commercial or recreational use of navigatable waters. The Wisconsin State Constitution doesn't allow for public access to be closed
10 seconds.
just because 34 boat voters don't have the financial ability to own the lake and are out voting for the day. The law is for everyone to have access. It has nothing to do with the number of parking spaces.
Thank
I've
you.
also heard,
She can have my 2 minutes.
No.
you can read the rest.
So we get continuity, you take your 2 minutes.
You gotta say your name.
Say your address.
William Schellinger, 510 Reagan Road, Key Weston, Wisconsin. Washington County resident my entire life, boat owner, operator, family man, fisherman, pleasure boater. And I respect everybody's right to use the lake as they so choose within the law. I am very respectful of fishermen. I have a jet ski, I have a boat, and I have a fishing boat. And when I'm out there on my boat, whether I'm pulling my kids in a tube on the jet ski, you know, I'll stay 200 feet away from a fisherman whenever possible. And personally, I don't even use the lake that often on weekends unless it's hot. And, you know, we're lake owners up in Vilas County. And if we're not up there enjoying our lake, which is more private than down here, and my boys wanna go swimming, you know, I'll take the 500-yard trip from the boat launch to the sandbar and go swimming, so. All right, so to finish here, Wisconsin State Constitution doesn't allow for public access to be closed once 34 boaters don't have the financial ability to own lake property or out boating for the day. The law is for everyone to have access to it, nothing to do with the number of parking spaces, which in the end could be utilized by lake property owners who want to keep additional boaters off the lake, or who want to stop the number of spaces from being reduced every year until only a few remain, essentially privatizing the public space. We addressed that earlier, that we needed to have 37 per the DNR law. I also heard that a number of commissioners may have a conflict of interest, therefore I respectfully ask for transparency's sake, by a show of hands, who on the voting board have direct lake access to the Big Cedar waters? To clarify, you guys, who on the board,
Can we have a show of hands? Who on the board has lake
Who
access,
on the board has-
owns property?
property homes?
So we have 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
10 seconds.
Based on that self-reported figure, I think a reasonable observer would believe that significant conflict of interest occurs between the possible voting member of this commission, which raises serious doubts about the outcome. I would urge, for transparency's sake, in Wisconsin sunshine law, that you consider not voting on this topic, as you are not representative of actual citizens who use and enjoy the lake, and therefore are taking a vote that appears to be self-serving of your private interest as an individual not serving the public. The true resolution.
Next. We'll kind of go side to side and maybe the middle. Go.
Okay, who's next?
Yes, Rick McKenna, 5566 Westlake Drive. For many years, I did not own property on the lake, and I had to go and drop my boat in and go through the process. And the process that I had to deal with in other lakes in this area is if I didn't get there in time, I had to wait. And that's the way it is in all the lakes around us. We're one of the few lakes in the area that does not do this. I have since become a property owner on this lake, and it's not safe out there on weekends. It's just not. And
Give him the
so-
chance to speak, please.
So therefore, the DNR has established through the legislative process and their administrative process, they have determined lake by lake by lake, the appropriate number of parking spots that need to be made available. We've accomplished that, we've met that goal. I understand, because I've been in the shoes of people who aren't on the lake, and you have to sit and wait, and it's annoying, and it's frustrating. But that's the process that the DNR has set up for us. And the fact that Cedar is finally adopting the system that's used in the vast majority of lakes in southeastern Wisconsin is frustrating, I'm sure, for some people, but it's realistic because it keeps the lake safe for all of us for the long term. We cannot ruin our lake by having too many boats out there and having a serious accident. We've been fortunate we haven't had anything for a while, but you go out there on the weekends, we don't ski on the weekends, we don't tube on the weekends, it's dangerous out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Melcher, 4725 Fontana Beach Road. I have two questions. If an individual has a boat on the lake and they're having a problem with it, and they don't have a trailer park, they gotta bring a trailer from home, would they be prohibited from picking up their boat that needs repair from taking it out of the lake at this time?
Let me try to answer that. We don't have all of the situations in mind yet. I think we will have that in the minutes. And it'll be something we need to deal with.
Yes.
One of the things, this ordinance is scheduled to go into effect, if it's adopted, it goes into effect August 1st. So we have 3 weeks or so to kind of let the people know about it. And it finishes this year after Labor Day. So there's going to be issues that we have to deal with that we'll have to make some logistic issues.
That's why I asked the question
Yes,
now.
that's good. We'll try to have an answer for that.
Secondly, would this prohibit anybody from leaving the lake early when they're done fishing for the day? That comes in
No,
with
if
a-
you were, I believe the way this is gonna work, and Dan, you can work on this. If a person is gone out in the lake and is fishing and now is finished and wants to get off, they would be allowed to get off.
There's no restriction coming off the lake. The restriction would be going onto the lake if the spots are full. Obviously, as the people come off the lake, parking spots will be opened and then the next person can go in.
So just to clarify, you're gonna vote on something that you haven't figured out the exact rules and details?
All of the details, well, some are gonna come up because we don't even anticipate them. And we'll try to deal with those as this works out. I don't think, in fact, the first question you had asked was if someone has got a boat that's not working, they're gonna be towed in, and they'll be allowed, they'll
They'd be
open up the
allowed.
gate. The person who's at the gate, I suggest you try to come to Gonring Drive, because that's where we'll have people there all the time. We may not have them at Hacker Drive or at Cedar Park, because there is a lot less activity there. But if they're coming off the lake, as Dan mentioned, they will be allowed off.
Hello, my name is David Baldus, and I live at 4841 Mueller Lane. As mentioned by the gentleman in the back, I get to a lot of lakes as well, and they do have limits to their parking. Pine Lake, I was just there a few weeks ago visiting, and I think they only have 9 spots. They have somebody there on weekends, and it states clearly there, once the spots are full, there's no more launching. And it is a DNR per lake regulation, and it's been determined by the DNR, so it's not an arbitrary number, it's a factual number. And I do understand that there will be, a work in process, but I applaud bringing this up. The lake becomes unsafe. I have a friend that was run over in his kayak a couple of years ago, and so it's a good thing, and it's an important thing for us to be like the other lakes, so we don't get the overflow.
Is anyone from the DNR here tonight?
No,
Do they have an opinion on this?
they do not have an opinion on this.
They can't have an opinion.
They don't have an opinion on it. I was contacted by the DNR and did not come tonight because they do not have an opinion on it.
this.
Are they looking into a resolution of legal matters on this?
They are not.
They are when I talk to them.
They weren't when they talked to me, so I don't know. who
Mr.
you're
Neal,
talking
Dan Neal,
to. Okay.
but that's fine.
I'm just telling you what he told me.
No, I'm telling you what he told me.
Okay.
Anybody
Okay,
else?
back to our process here.
has a question.
Yeah, could you,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first off, with the number, Diane Rain, 4125 Jans Drive, West Bend, Wisconsin. Boat owner, we do use the Cedar Lakes, and first off, my point is the DNR's number that you're using was an advisory number. And it's not locked in steel, and it's not imposed on all the lakes in the state of Wisconsin. You picked and you choose, and you picked it, okay? Because Chiniquah did. And it's there as a menu to be picked, and I understand that. But I wonder if you gave enough thought to how you're going to do this when the parking spaces are full, and like fishermen come in early, they come off the lake maybe 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, 11, and that's when your recreation boaters come. If they're all filled by 9, 10, 11, there's bars, there's chains. These people are gonna be driving around in circles here, or parked someplace with their four-ways on, and somebody's sitting in the car, because then technically they're not parked. One's gonna be down at the launch with a cell phone, the other one's gonna be on the road. They're gonna say, oh, there's an opening, and you're gonna have 4 boats coming at once. You're gonna have more collisions with cars than you will with boats on the lake. So I'm just wondering if you've given any thought to how that's going to work. Chaining off seems rather drastic. We've frequented Okauchee Lake, and Okauchee has a restricted parking, and then once the parking is full, you cannot launch. Fine, nobody cares. They wait, whatever, they wait their turn. They usually allow 2 or 3 boats in a line to wait, and then the other ones, they say they have to turn away, you have to come back later. But just wondering how that's gonna work. And, you know, with somebody is there all the time, fine. What scares me is when I read that it said chained off, that you're going to chain off 3 different areas for a parking place that's up here, and it's in 2 different areas over there. I mean, people who live on the lake here, you don't take an inventory of how many boats they have. Many of them have 3 and 4, and some have 2 more jet skis. Then they have kayaks, they have everything. I'm not
All right,
saying you
thank you,
shouldn't.
thank you very much.
I'm not saying, that's
Thank
not 2
you.
minutes yet.
oh no, I
Thank you.
gave
It's
you
been
10
2
seconds.
He's telling me to stop.
Right, you're
I
over
gave you the
time.
10 seconds a while ago.
You're over. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, the Wisconsin Administrative Codes of the DNR have a lot of things that they say. Craig Zimmer, 5808 Schneider Court, West Bend. I live in the Big Cedar Lake PRD district. I pay taxes to the district. I can't even get a sticker for free to launch down here, despite the fact that I pay $400 taxes to you guys every year. Now, I'm not allowed to launch my boat and go park in my own darn driveway. Why am I paying those taxes? Why am I included in the Lake District if you won't even let me on the lake? Second thing is, Wisconsin Administrative Code says for every 50 feet of shoreline, you're only allowed to have 2 boats docked on the lake. You might want to check that one, because what can happen is if people start to get real nitpicky about the administrative code rules, that can become a 2-way street. And with the Constitution of the state saying that the public's interest supersedes the riparian interests, there could be, not me, but other people that would maybe report if someone's pier is a little bit in the way of say a boat launch, or you know, somebody has too many things parked at their particular pier. Goes 2 ways.
Absolutely.
You've had one already.
I'll ask.
All right.
People Goddard, 5822 Hacker Drive. We also live with lake access, and we don't put our boat in, or don't keep it in the water. So if we want to put our boat in the water and tie it up, which we usually do if we come back for lunch or something, but we don't leave it in overnight, is someone going to tell us that we can't like put our boat in when it's tied up to a property we own?
Yes.
I don't know, how can you do that?
If the launch is,
But I don't see what it matters if there's 34 cars at this lot. you're just telling everybody come into Hacker Drive and put all your boats in the morning, there's still gonna be way more boats. It's not gonna matter. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if everybody on that road comes and puts 20 boats in before 9 o'clock and then there's 34, it's still gonna be 20 more boats, no matter what time. Because we're all residents, we all live on that street.
And can I add to that?
Yeah.
Are they gonna, because we're over there, have no parking lot or any parking?
I park in my driveway.
Right, but they're gonna chain it off. When 4 boats leave over here, are they gonna come over and let us 4 on and the 4 empty spaces over here because we're on the lake now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see
It
what it
doesn't-
matters if we live over there and we're paying lake taxes also for putting our boat in. I mean, you can say, okay, put it in at 6 in the morning, so if 20 people put their boat in at 6 in the morning, what's the difference if we put it in at 6 in the morning or noon? There's still gonna be the same amount of boats on the lake.
And nobody answered that lady's question about what you were planning to do once
What
it's
she's
full.
saying, and what I understand, Roger, is that because Hacker has no parking spots, so if 10 people launch over there in the morning before our lot's full and they park at their residence or somewhere else, we're still gonna be over the number of the 34 allowed because there's gonna be 10 boats that didn't park. So essentially there'd be 44 boats on the water. So again, that's something that we had discussed that we don't know how that's gonna work out. To address, just a second, to address your question, Gonring Drive was proposed to be monitored all day. There will be somebody at Gonring Drive letting people in and out. There will always be an officer out there to handle that.
My concern is though, there's gonna be people here with cell phones telling their people that there's an open spot, and you're gonna have a collusion of four, 6, 8.
Right, but what it's gonna be is, it would probably have to be restricted like they had talked about. We're not gonna allow, 15 boats to line up all the way back to 144.
Right, but that's
They'll be
what I'm
allowed to
saying.
line up back to the parking lot. Once that's full, they're gonna have to come back later.
But then you're gonna have people circling. So how are you gonna handle the people that are circling and who's next in line?
This-
So they say, okay, there's a spot open, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of people hurry to get there
But
to be
those
that
people are
third
gonna
in
be
line.
back in line because there will already be 4 or 5 boats waiting to go.
So,
as one moves
so one
forward, one
leaves,
gets in
and
line.
that one person comes forward, now there's only 2 people in line, and somebody circling can get into that queue. How are you gonna handle? Because there's gonna be way more than 3 or 4 or 5 people waiting in that line
These
that
are all
want to
things that
launch.
we have to discuss
But
and that
that's
we're
why
coming
I'm
with up ideas.
saying-
That's why we're having this tonight.
But that's why we're
so
saying
we
we
can look at
probably
all
should
this.
think about things more before you just vote on approving this tonight, because it sounds like there's a lot more questions that are out in the air that we haven't figured out than just approving something before we don't have the
I wasn't done
answers.
with my
Okay,
two
next,
minutes.
Have your name and
I-
address, please.
Can I just
I'm
make
just
my other
trying.
point?
No, no,
Yeah,
I
just
need
check
your
this.
name and
I will,
address.
once she's done, I will.
No, now.
Okay, sure, I'm sorry, Melissa Langley, 233 Crestview Drive, Fredonia, Wisconsin, 53021. So
Okay.
sorry, sir.
You can
And then
finish up.
also, I was gonna
You have
say, who
23
is gonna
seconds,
be
so-
monitoring Cedar Lake Hills subdivision? I know it's private, but friends and family can launch there, so if I can't get my boat in at my house, I'm gonna go to my friend's house and put my boat in over there. Cause I have 4 friends in that subdivision, so anybody else could do that too. So nobody, I mean, it's just, and the yacht club.
Nothing is perfect.
I know, I'm just saying there's like, I don't know how it's gonna be any different.
Well, we have a commissioner who lives in that area, so we'll have him work out.
Let's talk about that in a minute.
You're assigned to answer that question in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Thanks for blocking that road.
Next person in the back.
Rick Serwinski, 6181 Reach Road. I'm kind of the same thing everybody's saying. I pay on 2 properties on this lake, so I pay up, and my boats can't always be in the water. So on a Saturday, if I get off work at 12, get home by 1, I'm gonna put that, you're gonna tell me I can't put my boat in the water? I pay plenty of taxes. So do we get a pass?
If the parking area is full, the chain of the launch facility will be
Then
closed.
should we have a pass for anybody who pays taxes?
I pay taxes.
I pay
but we
taxes.
I pay PRD, I pay special taxes for this. I want the rights to use this lake. So can we have a lake pass for anybody that pays that special tax, that PRD tax?
That's
Public
something
lake.
we'll consider. A lot of the issues you're raising.
One discussion, please.
all the issues you raised, we are taking notes of those.
Okay. And that's what my thought.
And whether it'll
Before this
be,
goes any farther,
whether we'll be able to change it this year, it might be, and other lakes are having the same issue with residents. And I don't know exactly what all of them are doing. None of,
I
some
guess
of
we all
them,
pay Wisconsin taxes, West Bend taxes, but we pay a special tax to be on this lake, PRD.
Right, just so everybody understands, the tax that the residents pay in the PRD district are for this lake. People that live outside of this district do not pay the taxes that the people that live on the lake pay. Those taxes include garbage contracts that we handle for all the residents. They include the weed control on the lake, the weed harvesting, the pier pickups. So there's a bunch of other things that are included in that. And to address, I know we were talking about with the launch permits, the way that I look at this is we provide an annual launch permit, it's not included in your tax. So for me to give out a launch permit to a lake resident that pays taxes would be unfair to somebody else that wants to come on and buy an annual launch. I choose not to go down that road and, okay, well, you live here, you can have a free launch, you don't. That's just the way, we don't do business that way here, and that's why it's not
If I can't put
included.
my boat on and I do pay the PRD tax, can I stop next year if I can't get my boat on 7 times?
But that's never been included in your tax bill, correct?
PRD.
A launch?
Properties. No, but what I'm
Okay.
saying is now I pay that, so I.
Right,
paying
but
it.
that's what I was describing as the launch actually is not included in the
So I
tax.
think that's something that has to be definitely addressed, that we have a
Yes.
special pass. Now, is it wrong, is it unfair? Maybe it is, but I pay PRD that, so I want a pass to get on this lake anytime I need to.
okay.
I work until 12 o'clock on
All right, I
Saturday.
think our time is up.
Bev was next.
Bev's Jones, 6096 North Lake Drive. I did make some phone calls to the supervisor of Waukesha County Parks. His last name is Garrity, I believe. And he's responsible for Lake Nagawicca, Lake Namababan, several of them, and they all have access regulations. They all use the DNR number of parking spot standard as the amount of allowable boats on the lake, trailered boats. I asked about a pass because I said I'm sure some lake residents are going to feel that they have to, be in line, and he said they've talked about it for years, but they do not do a special pass. They just don't feel that's, something, it is discriminatory. So they say after a while, lake residents, if they wanna launch their boat, they realize they've gotta do it early or Tuesday or whatever. So, it's been talked about in the, southeastern Wisconsin, but it has not been done. He said that they've been doing it in Waukesha County for over 20 years, and a lot of these issues with, inline and accidents and so forth have not turned out to be the case. Now granted, I don't know that that's going to be the case here, but the model suggests that is people learn to regulate themselves. It's like grocery shopping on Saturday. If you don't have to, you don't do it. It's just busier. So you figure a way around it, or you figure out how to regulate, do some self-regulation. So I did talk to him about a bunch of these issues, and he said they just, after 20 years, have not had a major issue. So I just wanted to let you know
10
that
seconds.
I did talk. Thanks.
For service, 1059 Chestnut Street. How are you gonna regulate Cedar Lake Hills then?
10:59. Speak louder.
How are you gonna regulate Cedar Lake Hills when they launch? You gonna shut them down too then? When you got 37?
That's a private launch.
How's it a private launch?
Cedar Lake Hills is just for the Cedar Lake Hill residents.
So they get rights over the rest of these people that use these launches?
That's something that's set up with that
That's something to
subdivision.
consider. You're gonna have problems
That's
with that.
private
All right,
property.
could I have your name?
Chris Zerbis, 1059 Chestnut Street.
Hi, I'm Dan Daly, 826 South 7th Ave in West Bend. First of all, I'd like to say that, according to the state constitution and the doctrine, as we've heard, the citizens own the lake. It cannot be restricted. And my first question is, I'm wondering how the committee can justify even tabling something that flies in the face of the state constitution. Now, while you ponder that one, being a lake property owner or paying taxes to the district is not a pass card to have a bigger slice of ownership in Wisconsin water. I get the fact that the owners would sure like to keep the rest of the taxpayers off the lake. I get it. I understand why this is going on. I just don't think it's legal. I mean, from what I've read, it's not constitutional. And I just wonder how we can even justify talking about something that's blatantly illegal. This ordinance, if it passes, will absolutely restrict access to the waters, period. That's not legal.
Thank you.
Bruce Reynolds, 5951 Trackett Drive. I just want to say that I am so glad that we're getting so much public input. I think that's appropriate. On the legality, just on the legality issue, we're late to the party here. Lakes all across southeastern Wisconsin have been doing this for 10 years, 20 years. If it's illegal, you'd think that that would have been litigated in those locations. So I'm figuring just on the basis of that probably it is legal. And if it's not, it'll be litigated and we'll find out.
Claire Rolfs, 824 West Decorah Road, West Bend, lifelong resident of Cedar Lake, other than that. And what I'd like to say on the legality issue is we all pay our federal taxes, which supports our national park system. If you go to a national park, you can sit outside of Yellowstone for hours or days and not get in because they regulate the number of people that are allowed into the national parks for their own protection. And there's nothing illegal about that.
But there aren't a bunch of people living in the park that are granted different rules and regulations.
This is true. What I would say is if you own property on the lake, you do have the privilege of having a boat at your shoreline. Yes, that's very true.
But not into the body of it.
Thought safety was the issue.
There's a lady in the back.
Hi, I'm Jean Daly, 826 South 7th Avenue. I just have a question on how the DNR comes up with these numbers. If we have, I don't know how many property owners there are on Big Cedar Lake, let's just take a wild guess, 300?
There's about 900.
So 900 property owners get exclusive unlimited rights to our lakes, yet there are 4.5 million, or there's over 100,000 in the county, 4.5 million in the state, that we all own this water too. So why do 900 people get unlimited access where 4.5 million people can only use 37 spots?
Next.
My name is Rick Brasky. I'm here on the lake a whole lot. Some of you guys probably see me quite a bit. Every time I'm here. Yep.
Right.
And 1506 Creek, West Bend. I think we're all gathered here today because of a parking issue. And the parking issue really came to a head. Father's Day weekend was probably the big kickoff. And it was an extremely nice weekend, so we had a lot of people coming to enjoy the lake with their fathers. We already have parking laws and rules enacted. As far as parking restrictions on the highway, that's come up, that's new. That's gonna curb some of our problems here with excess people. I just can't, being here all the time, last weekend would be a great example. If we have 37 parking spots for the general public, I was on the lake Saturday. I didn't count the pontoons or the boats, but you guys, anybody who was out there for the party, knows that if you take 37 boats out of them two piles of people, that's not a drop in the bucket. It's the majority of the lake is lake people. You have 37, so you have another 30 people that find a place to park. Now you have 60 boats from the outside. It was still not a drop in the bucket for what I see on the weekends. I'm here during the week and on the weekends.
So you're saying there's more lake residents that are out there on the lake versus the?
Most definitely, when you have 37 parking spots,
Double
that's,
it.
so we'll double it, because you got people who can find a place to park.
Ours are parked all the way up to the top of the hill on K.
Well, that's part, well, that's right, that's when we need to put parking signs, no parking, and enact the rules that we have.
We're actually working
Well,
on that.
but if we work on that instead of, I think we're going overboard with chaining up the boat launch and things like that, restricting access for everyone.
Okay, thank you very much.
If we can
You're
figure
done
it
your
out
2
this
minutes.
way, this is much easier.
Steve Nebar, 5605 Woodcrest Drive, Hartford. I've got third home on Big Cedar here. I'm out with Rick on Saturdays, and I have to reinforce everything he said, but my question is what precipitated this? Is this an enforcement issue on the lake, or is this a parking issue? Because if you're spending time here, one officer regulating traffic here on the landing, who's out on the water? And I can tell you, my perception of this whole thing is this is a lake issue. In other words, that there's a lot of stuff going on in that lake. It's very busy. It's not being regulated. And I grant you, you can't cover everything. But if this is a regulatory issue, then why don't we enforce what's on that sign out there? And I can assure you, it's not being enforced. And it's not personnel, and we should be policing ourselves. But that speed limit, I don't care where you go, when you go, any place on the lake, people abuse the privileges out here.
I can speak for that, it is enforced, and I think everybody that comes out on the weekends would disagree with you that it's not enforced. I can show you.
I'm not saying it's not enforced. I'm just
Well, you
saying,
just,
though, that-
didn't you just say that it wasn't enforced? We do enforce the local ordinances and they're enforced very heavily.
But I can tell you that your enforcement is out there, but it's
Right.
not
2
stopping
boats
all
on the
this
weekends.
abuse that's going on.
It is.
It is?
We enforce the laws, so any state law or local ordinance, we're enforcing. Besides that, I don't know what you're referencing to, but we write approximately 130 tickets a year on the
How
lake.
many?
130,
That's all?
that's a lot.
But see, what started this? What brought this about?
The parking
I mean,
issue
yeah,
on the
just the
roads,
parking
that's what
issue.
started.
No, that is not,
Just the parking
do you guys wanna
enforcement on the lake.
fill them in on what brought this issue to the table, or?
Love to hear it.
I mean, there hasn't been any accidents that I've heard of or known of.
What problem have I solved?
Yeah, let's look at other solutions to the problem.
What are we trying to solve? It's a good point.
Okay, who's next?
Are we gonna answer the question?
Ray Krebs, 4642.
Who's next?
All right, quiet please, let somebody else leave.
My name is Ray Krebs, 4642 Cedar Park. I live right next to the boat launch. I guess I've got kind of mixed feelings because I've bought my property 4, 5, 6 years ago, about 6 years ago. Lived on the lake, now this will be my second summer because I built a house in the meantime. I have mixed feelings because yes, I did buy, so I spent the money. Lakefront land, lake property is expensive. I mean, everybody can agree with that. That's not an excuse for a privilege to get on the lake, I'm gonna say that too. However, we do have parking laws and rules, and granted, I know not all the roads are posted right now because, well, my son is on this board, he can't make it because he's a county commissioner. Brian, he should have been here tonight, but he's at a county meeting. He's got mixed feelings about it, I got mixed feelings about it, because I can see everybody's issue with it, you know. Yes, I did buy a property, so I've got the boat. I feel it's my right because I got it in a boat slip, so I got it on a boat lift. So it's there all the time for me, you know. During the week, there's really not an issue. I don't really see, it's nice. During the week and before Memorial Day weekend and after Labor Day weekend, there's no problems with anything as far as I can see. However, the parking issue has been abused so bad forever, and it seems because several years ago when they enacted a parking or a launch and parking fee up here, everybody moved down to Cedar Park. Then the whole Betcher Drive, all of a sudden everybody's parking in everybody's right of way. Granted, it's the road right of way, but just to give you an example, over the weekend,
twice. There were 3 cars on one side of the road in a no parking zone. The guy literally pulled up, launched his boat, backed his car up on the opposite side of the road with his trailer, and just parked there and went out for 2 hours. And all of a sudden, somebody else pulled a jet ski out, and they had another vehicle, and they parked on the opposite side for a half hour. I don't know what they were doing down by the water and stuff, you know, but they're clearly in violation. There's 3 cars there. At a different time, they were parked on Darrow's side. There are 3 cars. There are times, the 3rd parking stall, the sign literally goes up to my driveway. And when people line up, when you're talking about lining up or circling, they line up down Cedar Park Lane to wait till the next boat goes up the hill. That boat pulls, he parks halfway up the hill, the next one backs down. Over the weekend, I had to wait 10 minutes to get in my own driveway.
Sure.
You know, it's creating a hazard on the road.
I agree.
You know, the parking issue is not being respected right now.
Okay,
Let
me respond somewhat, excuse me, you're over your limit.
Okay.
One of the things that we'll be talking about today to help in the enforcement of those parking regulations, a couple of things happened. We had to get signs. You can enforce parking regulations, and by the way, the parking regulations are enacted by the town. We do not handle the parking regulations. But the town passed their ordinances, and we had to get signs. Signs have to be spaced fairly close together so that people know that there are restrictions. It took almost 2 months, I think, didn't it, Dan, to get?
It took 2 months from the place that they ordered the signs to actually get them in, and then that week they installed them. But
secondly, the only person that could do that was Dan, because he's also the town police chief. We're in the process of putting in an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the district and the town of West Bend to allow Dan, as the police chief of the town, to deputize our officers here, our water safety officers, to issue tickets, parking tickets. So that is coming up tonight later on. We'll adopt that. The town adopted it last night.
And to address your concern about Betcher, that parking ordinance over there has been in effect for a long time. The problem is the signs that were posted up where you're talking about, one person had complained up there, and ultimately, for some reason, the town went and took the 2 signs down.
I know who it is.
And I talked to the town, and I asked them why they took the signs down, and they told me that it was because someone complained. So those signs were put back up that following week.
I guess.
And then, to address the parking, from the weekend before the 4th of July through the 4th of July, I issued 36 parking tickets in the town of West Bend between Betcher Drive, West Lake, and Maple Ridge.
How many did you issue in the rest of West Bend?
None.
I guess my concern is there's people on both sides, and I see both sides of the issue, but people have to also look at the hazard it creates, because I can't even get to my property or my house sometimes because of people, as you're saying, they're stacking up or circling and stuff. They're just waiting because these 34 spots are filled and they charge to launch, and for some reason the town doesn't do it down there. And I personally cut down a tree for the town, you know, because branches were falling all over my lawn and all over the launch and stuff. I waited till after the Memorial or Labor Day weekend and stuff. You know, I've taken care of it. I pick up the garbage. You don't realize.
But it is being enforced now, and you gotta understand,
Right.
this board is not affiliated with the town.
I've gotta cut
so-
you off
Sure,
now.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any others?
No, he was.
Scott Wells, 4328 County Highway Yadet. I understand the Constitution, and I think it is good that Wisconsin allows access to all the navigable waters for all 5.8 million people in the state. The challenge, though, is that all 5.8 million people in the state cannot get on this lake at the same time in a safe manner. I use this lake in a much different way than probably anybody in this room. I am a scuba diver, and I will tell you that it is one of the most beautiful, crystal clear lakes to scuba and snorkel in southeastern Wisconsin. But it is incredibly dangerous to do so. And I'm going to relay a story that happened to me a couple years ago. I was down about 30 feet, and I have a buoy with a approved scuba flag, and I'm down 30 feet attached to that rope, and I feel this big tug on my flag. And it's a very strong tug, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And so I look up, and I see a boat above me, and so I say, I gotta do something here. I gotta surface, and I gotta be very, very careful. I surface, there's a boat next to me. There are two drunk guys in the boat, and they're taking my flag out. And the guy says, oh, we just didn't know what the hell this was. It was just fucking floating here. And I'm sorry, I hate it. And so where I'm going with it is, I'm in favor of the ordinance. I don't think it's a perfect solution, but there need to be things looked at here and enacted, and I commend the board for taking some level of action.
Mike Nast, 4771 Fontana Beach Road. I'm in favor of the ordinance, and a lot of people I've talked to about it are also in favor of it. And the number one thing that everyone says when we talk about this is that the lake is too busy on the weekends. Whether that's people that are launching or people on the lake, the simple fact is the lake is too busy. There's a lot of concern for that. It's a safety issue. We have other ordinances that are already in place, a speed limit, we have slow no wake zones, we have times when we can use the lake in a manner and times we can't. This is in keeping with the spirit of those laws that are already on the books in order to keep the lake safe, usable, and enjoyable by everybody who's on the water. So I'm in favor of the ordinance. I hope we can find a solution that helps keep everybody safe.
Joe Jansky, 6068 North Lake Drive. I'm for the ordinance. I think anybody who's here on a Saturday or Sunday, you go by the launch off of Gonering and you can see boats that go and are launched continuously from 10 o'clock till 3 o'clock. It's just continuous, and it really is a safety issue. And the other thing I want to say, in addition to the lake safety, is the parking issue. 144, I know the signs for no parking have gone further and further down, but people will park and they'll go further and further down Highway 144. So the one question I would ask is, what are the parking tickets? If I get a ticket for $20, is that really a deterrent and keep me from parking on a state highway and watching, parents and little kids walking back down to the lake on a state highway that's 55 miles an hour?
Right.
So it really is a safety issue.
We did approach the county because that is a state highway and went through the state person that handles that part of the road, and they did shut that area down so that is all no parking now where they used to park.
So how is that enforced?
Well, the county will enforce the state highway 144. The town enforces all the other roads.
But that means the Washington County Sheriff has to come through to ticket those
Right,
cars?
and I haven't seen them out there lately, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen them within the last couple weeks.
In Maple Ridge Court.
Maple Ridge Court, but not on Highway 144.
I do.
On 144 though.
My backyard butts up against 144. Where you guys put the new parking signs?
Are they parking there currently?
No.
That's what I'm saying. I thought you
Correct.
said they were.
No, I
Okay.
was saying they were not. I was
So,
correcting.
But on a
to
really
address
busy
your
holiday,
question, it's
you can
20.
see them parking there.
Okay, it's 20. I believe $20 a ticket from the county. The towns are $50.
So they are ticketing. Every car that was on 144 got a ticket.
So $20. So
But
that's
I haven't noticed. I don't know. I don't think that anybody's been parked there since they put them signs up.
Correct. They have not. Since you guys put the signs up on 144,
There is
Maple Ridge
not any.
Court, there's been no parking anymore up there.
Right.
Can we get
Are
your
those
name?
cars paying launch fees that are parking on 144?
Some do, some don't. Could I have
I
you?
do. I've got a sticker that I paid my $80.
You do. I'm not
The
sure everybody else.
person
We need your name and address.
So, yep,
You need
Mark,
your name.
so I get my 2 minutes now?
Just name and address first.
Mark Goumet for Maple Ridge, 5924 Maple Ridge Court. You guys have added the parking, I don't know, the problem you're trying to solve is supposed to be boat safety. You guys added the no parking, and that has limited all the parking up on Maple Ridge Court and Highway 144. If the issue is boat safety, take 900 times 4 boats per slip.
True.
That's 3,600 boats that can be on this lake, that are on this lake. So if the issue is boat safety, you've got a problem already that this does not solve.
Right.
Doesn't even touch it.
Yep, should be regulated.
Plus, people like Schneider Court and myself who bought our property, we bought it because we wanted to use the lake and have access and be able to walk down to it. Now you're decreasing our property value by doing that.
Just, we don't have the authority to, we are aware of the problem with extra boats on piers. We do not have the authority to enforce that. That's a DNR.
But if the problem we're trying to solve is boater safety, that's what you gotta solve. That's where you need to focus your attention.
I agree that it's part of it.
Right on.
900 versus 34.
If somebody
That's what needs to be
drops a
focused on.
kayak in,
I am
is that
favor of
allowed?
I am favor of the.
But again, we cannot do anything about that.
I
It's the
understand.
DNR that enforces the pier
So I
restrictions and the
understand
number
it.
of boats.
And I am in favor of the parking, no parking that you guys put on 144, Maple Ridge Court and everything, because that just helps increases my property value, because I'm that close to the lake.
Sure.
But that, I mean, it's resourceful. I mean, look at Highway K, somebody mentioned it too. Just go up there, we'll have people that'll shuttle in pairs, drop somebody off, and then they'll take the trailer up to Highway K, and it goes all the way up.
Then you guys have more parking.
One conversation.
So one more thing is I oppose this, I just wanna make sure I'm clear, I'm opposing this ordinance.
Okay. We'll address the Highway K issue too, Roger.
Yes, I'll just give you a response on that. It was taken up with the county, and they declined to do anything. We've asked them for a rehearing, and I understand we're supposed to get one.
Hopefully, I mean, they had a hearing and we were not informed of the hearing, so, because it is a county highway, it has to go through about 3 different boards for approval.
So I mean, the no parking you guys put in place has solved the parking on those.
That's
All right, thank you.
That's right.
Thank you, all right.
Kevin Leitner, 5836 Westlake Drive. We also own our property on Schneider Court, 5823. We also are part owners of House on Highway. To answer this gentleman's question, what's facilitated this action on the PRD? From my understanding, it's the Big Cedar Lake Property Owners Association. Am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
They were one of the people who raised the
There's
issue.
22 directors that speak for 900 properties. I have never received anything of the sort of a questionnaire of whether I'm opposed for it or for it. That should be tabled, this should be put off, and that should be addressed with the Association of Big Cedar Lake Property Owners. That's my opinion. Also, are you working with anybody in the DNR? I think I was told no, currently. The representative that I spoke with said there's nobody this has not come across her desk. She also informed me that it is illegal for the PRD to chain or close off any launch. It's considered abandonment, and you cannot do so without their authorization and approvals. They have 3 lakes in the state of Wisconsin that they approved for this. That's it. The parking thing, that's a different story. That's in your jurisdiction. So I'm not for this until this is, I think you're creating a bigger problem. I also think you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit. The town of Lynn in Lake Geneva was sued and went to the Supreme Court, and they lost because of the same actions with the parking and chaining of launches.
10 seconds.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
We still have about 10 minutes. Everyone is talked out?
We got someone else?
Go ahead.
Matthew Traster, 1726 Oriole Court. I oppose this parking regulation, and I'd like to take part of my 2 minutes and say thank you to all the safety officers for keeping us safe on the lake. And whether you agree with me or not, I'd like to thank everybody here for keeping the discussion civil.
Yeah.
Very good.
Anybody else? All right, looks like you can come back.
Second round.
How are we gonna how many, you're gonna chain off what, 2 this landing and 1 on the other side?
3.
3 of them? How are you gonna monitor who's next in line? That's just like I'm saying, there's 6 of us on the other side of the lake on the weekend that bring our boats down and we put them in, and let's say that 6 people leave over here, we get to come on. Are those parking spaces gonna be left empty? Because we're on the lake now, and it's gonna come down to a real problem, I think. And, you know, and then who's gonna say, well, those guys on the other side have been waiting, and we'll let this guy on. How are we gonna do this? You know?
That's what we have 3 weeks to accomplish.
I mean, you're gonna have to have somebody standing like directly.
Yeah.
Coordinate to keep one spot.
We have discussed that if it would go into effect, that they would have to be manned.
They'd be manned.
All 3 launches would have to be manned. We cannot just put up a chain and walk away.
At cost,
Yeah, who's the?
It's probably a big cost.
Who's paying for it?
Who pays for it?
Paying that cost?
I'm Greg Zimmer, 580 Schneider Court again. I think that if safety is the issue, we really need to increase the number of lake patrol people. And I would like to see the board put a motion in at some point to do that. And frankly, I think that the work that these people do is important enough, first responders and everything. I think $17 an hour isn't enough money. I think they should be paid more than that, and I think
That's
there
our
should be.
minimum.
Okay.
That's
We have
Okay.
people at 25, 26.
Good. Okay, but I think that, you know, we should put our money where our mouth is on safety and.
We will
back
be
these
hiring additional
If this
law
goes through, I would
enforcement
have to hire more
officers to help monitor this. It's interesting that you asked that we bring in just additional police, water safety officers to be out on the lake to enforce the laws.
You won't need to, because there won't be as many people.
There still will be a lot of people.
Right, exactly.
I've heard there's still gonna be a lot of people out there.
And I think the enforcement, I know what you're saying, Greg, we have 2 boats that run on the weekends. I'm sure some of you can attest that the officers are pretty good on the lake.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So who does, do we ever answer the question, who pays for it?
All right, I'm gonna take one in the back, then one in the front.
There's Bruce and then there's Shannon.
Oh, get off my foot.
6917 Maple Ridge Court right up here. I was just wondering if you guys could expand a little bit. You keep saying in the next 3 weeks we gotta figure it out. So what's the process? How does this happen? Who's making the decision? Because right now, it doesn't seem like we have a lot of answers. So how do you come to the decision? Is there another meeting? Or you guys just vote amongst yourselves, or what's happening?
Dan and his staff will be working on the,
How do we know?
Right.
You guys found out?
how will you know?
Yeah.
That's part of why we delayed the time when this ordinance would go into effect. It's got about 3 or 4 weeks. We do plan to
Would you have another meeting?
get information out.
What's
We've
the
got some
approval? I
ideas.
don't
We-
understand how this works. You just decide if you
If
guys
it-
want to or what?
If the ordinance does go into effect, obviously, as we discussed earlier, we will be posting, we will post via a legal notice in the paper, we will post signs at the launches, we will post via social media, and, excuse me, let me finish. The vote is on tonight for the, okay? The logistics of everything still have to be worked out. We agree with you on that part. This is something new that was brought to us also. So there is a lot of logistics that have to be figured out with this. We have 3 launches.
My
How,
question is, how can you vote on something we don't even know
well, what we're voting on is the passage of the ordinance. We're not voting on how it's gonna be manned or
Well,
enforced.
then you can't vote on something if you don't know
Right,
the answer.
right.
Yeah.
I vote for
Okay, any more questions?
Can't vote on something.
Now, Bruce Reynolds was next, and then this guy in the green was next.
Bruce Reynolds, I've spoken once before, but I don't think that I made it clear that I favor the.
Quiet, please.
And that I commend the commissioners for trying this out. I want to stress that this is a 1-month experiment. We're learning, we're exploring. It's not sort of a slam dunk kind of thing, and that's the right way to proceed. Mr. Leichner mentioned, where's Mr. Leichner? The Property Owners Association. I'm a director of the Property Owners Association, and I want to speak just briefly about them. You're on Westlake Drive?
Westlake Drive, Schneider Court.
So there should be, Bob Bodensteiner is your director, and you should be talking to him, because the property owners, those 22 directors, each have a district, and their main job is to listen to the people, to listen to their neighbors and feed that information up. That's, I think, why, if anyone pushed this forward, is the Property Owner Association pushing it forward, because that's our job. We listen, we try to get the concerns, and we got a website, we got various ways to communicate, the annual meeting at the Yacht Club.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say